3 days before my sister Madison's wedding, my phone buzzed with a message that would shatter our family forever. Scarlett, I need you to know that you are not welcome at my wedding. You will embarrass us in front of Richard's family and our friends. Please understand, this is for the best. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. After everything I had accomplished, after clawing my way out of the darkness they had pushed me into, Madison still saw me as the family failure. What she did not know was that in 72 hours, I would walk into that venue as someone completely different than the broken girl they remembered. Before we dive into this incredible journey of family betrayal and ultimate revenge, I want to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like button if you have ever felt underestimated by your own family. Make sure to subscribe because this story has more twists than a soap opera. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens when Madison finally discovers who I have become. Growing up in the Manning household meant living in Madison's shadow. She was 3 years older, effortlessly beautiful, and could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. While Madison received piano lessons, dance classes, and designer clothes, I got hand-me-downs and lectures about being grateful for what I had. The favoritism was not subtle. When Madison wanted to attend an expensive private college, Dad liquidated part of his retirement fund without hesitation. When I asked for help with community college tuition, Mom suggested I get a job instead. The breaking point came during my senior year of high school. I had been accepted to 3 universities with partial scholarships, but I needed additional financial support to make it work. Madison was already in her junior year at Northwestern studying communications with a minor in spending Dad's money on sorority fees and spring break trips. I remember sitting at the dinner table carefully explaining my financial aid situation and how a small family contribution would open doors to my future. Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. "Scarlett, honey, we have already stretched ourselves thin with Madison's education. She is going to marry well and represent this family properly. Maybe college is not for everyone." Mom nodded in agreement, adding that I could learn a valuable trade instead. The casual dismissal of my dreams hit harder than any slap could have. Madison, who had been scrolling through her phone during the entire conversation, finally chimed in with a laugh that still echoes in my nightmares. "Besides, Scarlett, you are not exactly Northwestern material. Some people are meant to be leaders and others are meant to follow. It is just genetics." She shrugged as if she had just commented on the weather, completely unaware that she had just destroyed her little sister's world. That night, I cried myself to sleep on my narrow twin bed while listening to Madison video call her friends about her upcoming sorority formal, discussing dress options that cost more than my entire wardrobe. The financial manipulation ran deeper than simple favoritism. Over the years, I discovered that my grandmother had left money specifically for both granddaughters' educations. The fund had been quietly redirected to enhance Madison's college experience, paying for her study abroad semester in Italy and her unpaid internship in New York City. When I confronted Mom about the inheritance, she became defensive and angry. "Your grandmother wanted her legacy to have maximum impact," Mom said coldly. "Madison's opportunities benefit the entire family's reputation. Your path was always going to be different, Scarlett. We did what we thought was best." The betrayal cut deep because it was not just about money. It was about being systematically erased from my own family's future, deemed unworthy of investment or belief. The contempt was not limited to financial decisions. Every family gathering became a showcase for Madison's achievements, while my struggles were either ignored or used as cautionary tales. When Madison landed her first marketing job, the celebration dinner lasted for hours. When I earned my certification as a licensed practical nurse while working 2 other jobs, Mom mentioned it in passing before launching into a detailed account of Madison's latest promotion. The belittlement was constant and creative. Madison would introduce me to her friends as my little sister who takes care of sick people, with a tone that suggested I was barely more than a janitor. During family photos, I was consistently positioned in the back or to the side, ensuring that the important family members were prominently displayed. Holiday gift exchanges were particularly painful, with Madison receiving expensive jewelry and electronics, while I got generic gift cards and practical items like socks. The disregard for my feelings reached its peak during Madison's engagement announcement. Richard came from old money, the kind of family that traced their lineage back to the Mayflower and had streets named after their ancestors. Madison was absolutely glowing as she showed off her vintage engagement ring, a family heirloom that had belonged to Richard's great-grandmother. The wedding planning began immediately with no expense spared and no detail overlooked. I was initially assigned the role of bridesmaid, but even that came with conditions. Madison made it clear that I would need to lose weight to fit properly into the dress she had chosen. She handed me a list of improvements that included teeth-whitening professional makeup lessons and a complete wardrobe overhaul for the wedding weekend events. The list was accompanied by a passive-aggressive note about how important it was for everyone in the wedding party to represent the bride appropriately. The final insult came when Madison's future mother-in-law got involved in the wedding planning. Eleanor Blackwood was everything Madison aspired to be, refined, wealthy, and utterly ruthless in maintaining her family's social standing. During a tense dinner at the country club, Eleanor made several pointed comments about the importance of surrounding oneself with the right sort of people. Her gaze lingered on me throughout the evening, taking in my department store dress and drugstore makeup with barely concealed disdain. Later that night, Madison called me into her old bedroom for what she called a heart-to-heart conversation. What followed was a masterclass in manipulation disguised as sisterly concern. She explained that Richard's family was very particular about appearances and that my presence at the wedding might create awkward situations. She suggested that perhaps I could participate in other ways, maybe helping with behind-the-scenes coordination or taking photos of the getting ready process. The cruelest part was how she framed her rejection as protection. "I love you, Scarlett, but I also love Richard, and I need this wedding to be perfect. You understand, right? You know how important this is for my future, for all of our futures. Sometimes we have to make hard choices for the greater good." She hugged me while delivering this devastating news as if her embrace could somehow soften the blow of being deemed unworthy of witnessing her happiness. What Madison did not know was that her rejection became the catalyst for the most dramatic transformation of my life. The night I received her cruel text message, I was sitting in my penthouse apartment in Chicago, having just signed a multi-million-dollar consulting contract with one of the biggest healthcare corporations in the country. The girl they had written off as not college material had not only earned her bachelor's degree summa cum laude, but had also completed her Master of Business Administration from Wharton, one of the most prestigious business schools in the world. My journey from family scapegoat to corporate powerhouse had been fueled entirely by spite and determination. After being denied educational support, I had enlisted in the Army where I served as a combat medic for 4 years. The military not only paid for my education through the GI Bill, but also taught me disciplined leadership and the importance of having people you can truly count on. My fellow soldiers became my chosen family, supporting me through night classes and celebrating every academic achievement. Following my military service, I had thrown myself into my studies with single-minded focus. While Madison was posting Instagram photos from her various vacations and social events, I was working full-time as a nurse while attending business school at night. My professors quickly recognized my unique combination of healthcare experience and business acumen, leading to internship opportunities with major medical device companies and pharmaceutical corporations. The breakthrough came during my final semester at Wharton when I developed a revolutionary cost reduction strategy for hospital supply chain management. My thesis project caught the attention of several industry leaders, resulting in job offers from 3 different Fortune 500 companies. I chose the position that offered the most autonomy and the highest salary, knowing that financial independence was my ticket to never being dismissed or underestimated again. Within 18 months, I had restructured the entire procurement system for a network of hospitals across the Midwest, saving them over $50 million annually. My success led to consulting opportunities with other healthcare systems, and I eventually launched my own firm specializing in operational efficiency for medical facilities. The girl who had been told she was not college material was now commanding 6-figure speaking fees and had been featured on the cover of Healthcare Business Monthly as one of the industry's rising stars. The irony was not lost on me that while Madison had been playing the role of the perfect socialite wife in training, I had been quietly building an empire. My net worth had already surpassed what Dad would earn in his entire career, and my professional reputation was opening doors that Madison could never access, regardless of whom she married. The ultimate vindication came when I was invited to join the board of directors for the Children's Hospital, where I had once volunteered as a teenager, bringing my influence full circle to benefit the community that had always supported me. But success was not enough. I needed Madison and my parents to understand the magnitude of their mistake, to face the reality that they had systematically destroyed their relationship with the daughter who had actually achieved something meaningful. The wedding invitation that never came became my opportunity to make a statement that would reverberate through our family for generations. My plan was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its execution. Richard's family owned several businesses, including a chain of upscale medical facilities that were struggling with operational inefficiencies and rising costs. Through my professional network, I learned that they were desperately seeking a consultant to solve their problems before their reputation suffered permanent damage. It took exactly 3 phone calls to position myself as the expert they needed without ever revealing my connection to their future daughter-in-law. The consultation contract was signed 2 weeks before Madison's wedding, guaranteeing my presence at the Blackwood family business retreat that was scheduled for the same weekend as the rehearsal dinner. Eleanor Blackwood herself had insisted that the consultant attend the business dinner, as the presentation would influence major family investment decisions. The beautiful irony was that Madison's future mother-in-law was personally ensuring that I would be in close proximity to the wedding festivities, completely unaware of our family connection. I spent weeks preparing for this moment, not just professionally, but personally. The transformation needed to be complete and undeniable. I hired a top-tier personal stylist who specialized in executive presence, investing in a wardrobe that would command respect in any room. Professional photography sessions for my business profile had already captured my new image, confident, successful, and completely removed from the struggling girl my family remembered. The psychological preparation was equally important. I knew that seeing Madison and my parents would trigger old wounds and insecurities, so I worked with a therapist who specialized in family trauma and professional development. Together, we developed strategies for maintaining my composure and confidence regardless of how my family might react to my presence. The sessions helped me understand that my success was not dependent on their approval or recognition, but it sure felt good to know they would finally see what they had discarded. My chosen family rallied around me during this preparation phase. My army buddies, my business partners, and my closest friends all understood the significance of this moment. They helped me rehearse potential conversations and scenarios, ensuring that I would be ready for anything Madison or my parents might throw at me. Their support reminded me that I had already built the loving, supportive relationships that my biological family had failed to provide. The final piece of my strategy involved timing and presentation. I would arrive at the business retreat in my own car, a sleek black BMW that cost more than my parents' annual mortgage payments. My business cards and professional portfolio would be pristine, showcasing achievements that would be impossible to dismiss or minimize. Most importantly, I would conduct myself with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your own worth, regardless of how others might try to diminish it. The Blackwood family estate was everything I had expected: old money elegance with perfectly manicured grounds and architecture that screamed generational wealth. As I pulled up the circular driveway in my BMW, I noticed several other luxury vehicles already parked near the main entrance. The business retreat was being held in the estate's conference wing, a modern addition that somehow managed to blend seamlessly with the historical architecture. Eleanor Blackwood greeted me at the entrance with the kind of polished warmth that wealthy people perfect over decades of social obligations. She was exactly as Madison had described: impeccably dressed, intimidatingly intelligent, and absolutely committed to maintaining her family's reputation. Her handshake was firm and her smile was genuine as she welcomed the consultant who comes so highly recommended by our associates in Chicago. "Miss Manning," she said, her voice carrying that distinctive accent that comes from the finest East Coast boarding schools. "We are absolutely thrilled to have you here. Your reputation precedes you, and frankly, we are desperate for your expertise. Our medical facilities have been hemorrhaging money, and the board is breathing down our necks for solutions." The conference room was filled with about 20 people, family members, business partners, and key employees of the Blackwood medical empire. I was introduced as the lead consultant from Manning Healthcare Solutions, and I watched as several people nodded with recognition. My company's reputation had apparently reached even these exclusive circles, which gave me an additional surge of confidence. Richard was there looking every bit the entitled heir apparent that Madison had described in her gushing phone calls to our mother. He was conventionally handsome in that bland country club way, with the kind of soft features that suggested he had never faced real adversity. His handshake was weak, and his attention seemed divided between the business presentation and his phone, which kept buzzing with what I assumed were wedding-related messages. The presentation went flawlessly. I had spent months analyzing their operational data, and my recommendations were both comprehensive and immediately actionable. The room was silent as I walked through their inefficiencies, demonstrating how poor supply chain management and outdated inventory systems were costing them millions annually. My proposed solutions would not only stop the bleeding, but would actually increase their profit margins by 30% within the first year. The questions came fast and detailed, but I was ready for everything they threw at me. My military background had taught me to prepare for every possible scenario, and my business school training had given me the vocabulary to discuss complex financial concepts with absolute authority. By the end of the presentation, several family members were nodding enthusiastically, and Eleanor herself looked impressed with both my analysis and my professional demeanor. "Miss Manning," Eleanor said as the formal presentation concluded, "this is exactly what we needed to hear. Your recommendations are bold, but well supported, and frankly, we should have brought in someone with your expertise months ago. I think I speak for everyone when I say we would like to move forward with your firm immediately." The contract discussion that followed was music to my ears. They were not only accepting my proposal, but were actually expanding the scope of work, asking me to oversee the implementation personally rather than delegating to junior consultants. The financial terms were even more generous than I had hoped, reflecting both their desperation and their recognition of my value. As the business session wound down, Eleanor invited me to join the family for dinner, explaining that they always combined business retreats with social time to strengthen relationships. This was the moment I had been both dreading and anticipating. The dinner would be held in the main dining room of the estate, and she mentioned that Richard's fiancée would be joining them, along with some other family members who were in town for a special celebration this weekend. My heart rate increased, but I maintained my professional composure as I accepted the invitation. This was happening faster than I had anticipated, but I was ready. The girl who had been deemed unworthy of attending Madison's wedding was about to sit down as the guest of honor at her future in-laws' dinner table, introduced as the business expert who was going to save their family empire. I excused myself to freshen up before dinner, using the time to center myself and review my strategy. In the elegantly appointed powder room, I looked at my reflection and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. The professional styling the confidence, the aura of success. I had truly transformed into someone completely different from the insecure girl my family remembered. When I returned to the main floor, cocktails were being served in the drawing room. Eleanor immediately approached me with two other family members, introducing me as the brilliant consultant who is going to revolutionize our medical operations. The conversation flowed easily as we discussed industry trends and my previous successes with other healthcare systems. That was when I heard her laugh. Madison's distinctive giggle carried across the room, instantly transporting me back to our childhood when that same laugh had often been directed at my expense. I turned slowly, maintaining my professional composure, and saw her entering the drawing room with Richard. She was exactly as I remembered, perfectly styled, effortlessly beautiful, and completely comfortable in social situations that would intimidate most people. She was wearing a cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her engagement ring catching the light as she gestured animatedly while telling some story to Richard's cousin. Her entire demeanor radiated the confidence that comes from never having to doubt your place in the world, never having to prove your worth or fight for recognition. Eleanor moved toward the couple with obvious affection, and I realized this was my moment. I had perhaps 30 seconds before the introductions began, 30 seconds to prepare for the shock that was about to reverberate through both families. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and reminded myself that I belonged in this room just as much as anyone else. "Madison, darling," Eleanor called out, I want you to meet our consultant, Richard. You should pay attention to this introduction as well, since Miss Manning will be working closely with our medical facilities moving forward. Madison turned toward us with that practiced social smile that she had perfected over years of country club events and charity galas. Her expression was politely interested, but not particularly engaged, the look of someone preparing to make small talk with a business associate before moving on to more interesting conversations. Miss Manning, Eleanor continued, I would like you to meet my future daughter-in-law, Madison, and of course you have already been working with Richard during our business discussions. Madison extended her hand with that same practiced grace, her smile warm but generic. It is so nice to meet you, Miss Manning. Eleanor has been raving about your presentation all afternoon. It sounds like you are going to work miracles for the family business. I took her hand, feeling the familiar softness that came from a lifetime of manicures and hand creams, and looked directly into her eyes. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of something. Confusion, perhaps, or the beginning of recognition, but it was quickly replaced by her social mask. Hello, Madison, I said, my voice steady and professional. It is wonderful to finally meet Richard's fiancée. I have heard so much about you and your upcoming wedding celebration. The recognition hit her like a physical blow. The color drained from her face. Her practiced smile faltered, and her grip on my hand tightened as if she needed something to steady herself. The transformation was remarkable. In less than 3 seconds, the confident socialite had been replaced by a confused, frightened girl who looked like she had just seen a ghost. Scarlett. The name came out as barely more than a whisper, so quiet that I was probably the only person who heard it clearly. Her eyes darted frantically between my face and Eleanor as if she were trying to solve an impossible puzzle. The moment of truth had arrived, and I savored every second of her shock and confusion. The dinner that followed my dramatic reveal was a masterpiece of social awkwardness and family tension. Madison had barely managed to compose herself, her face still pale and her hands trembling as she attempted to navigate the conversation. Eleanor, sharp as ever, had immediately sensed the undercurrent of tension, but remained graciously oblivious to the family connection that had just been exposed. Richard, however, was not as perceptive as his mother. He spent the entire meal bragging about his upcoming wedding, completely unaware that his fiancée was sitting across from the sister she had banned from the ceremony. Madison kept shooting me desperate looks, her eyes pleading for some kind of explanation or reassurance that I would not destroy her carefully constructed fantasy. I played my role perfectly, engaging in polished conversation about healthcare economics and industry trends, while internally celebrating every moment of Madison's discomfort. When Eleanor asked about my family background, I simply mentioned that I had grown up in the Midwest and preferred to keep my professional and personal lives separate. The lie came easily, and Madison's relief was almost palpable. After dinner, Madison cornered me in the hallway leading to the guest bathroom. Her composed facade had completely crumbled, revealing the panicked, desperate woman underneath. Scarlett, what are you doing here? When did you? This is impossible. You are supposed to be. She was struggling to form complete sentences, her world clearly spinning off its axis. I am supposed to be what Madison, poor, unsuccessful, sitting at home, crying about not being invited to your wedding. I kept my voice low and steady, enjoying her obvious distress. I am exactly where I belong, being paid very well by your future family to solve their problems. Her desperation transformed into something uglier. You cannot do this, Scarlett. You cannot ruin my wedding, my future, my relationship with the Blackwoods. Richard does not need to know about our complications. His family does not need to know that you are my sister. Please, I am begging you to just finish your business here and leave quietly. The audacity was breathtaking. Even faced with undeniable proof of my success and her dependence on my expertise, Madison was still trying to erase me from her life. You want me to pretend we are not related so you can maintain your perfect image, after you explicitly told me I would embarrass your family. I will pay you, she said desperately. I have some money saved and I can ask Richard for more. Just please do not destroy this for me. You know how important this marriage is for my future, for my happiness. You know what this means to Mom and Dad. Before I could respond, we were interrupted by Richard himself, who had apparently come looking for his missing fiancée. "There you are. Mother wants to discuss the implementation timeline with Miss Manning, and she specifically requested that you join us since you will be part of the family business soon." Madison's panic was evident, but Richard remained oblivious. As we walked back toward the drawing room, I realized that my sister was not the only family member I needed to confront. My parents had been equally complicit in my systematic erasure, and they deserved to face the consequences of their favoritism and neglect. The next morning brought an unexpected complication. My phone rang early with a call from my business partner David, who had been managing our other clients while I handled the Blackwood contract. His voice was tense and apologetic as he delivered news that would threaten everything I had worked to achieve. "Scarlett, we have a problem. That audit we have been dreading finally happened, and there are some discrepancies in our financial reporting from the Henderson Hospital project. The investigators are asking questions about cost overruns and timeline extensions. They seem to think we may have been padding our billings." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Our firm's reputation was built on integrity and transparency, and any suggestion of financial impropriety would destroy years of careful relationship building. "David, you know those cost overruns were legitimate. The hospital changed their specifications 3 times, and we documented everything." I know, but someone provided the investigators with information that suggests we knew about the problems earlier than we reported. They have emails and documentation that make it look like we were deliberately hiding issues to justify additional billing. The implications were staggering. If the allegations gained traction, I would lose not only the Blackwood contract, but potentially my entire business. My professional reputation would be destroyed, and Madison would have the last laugh after all. The timing was too convenient to be coincidental, and I immediately suspected that someone close to me had provided the damaging information. My suspicions were confirmed later that day when I received a call from my former mentor and current board member, Patricia Williams. Patricia had been instrumental in my early career development, providing guidance and connections that had helped launch my consulting firm. Her betrayal was more devastating than any family rejection could ever be. "Scarlett, honey, I need you to understand that this was not personal. The board felt that your emotional investment in this particular client might be clouding your judgment. We have been concerned about your objectivity, especially after learning about your family connections to the Blackwood situation." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Patricia had been present during several strategy sessions where I had mentioned my plans for confronting Madison. She had even encouraged me to use this opportunity to show your family what you have accomplished. What I had interpreted as support had actually been manipulation, allowing her to gather information that could be used against me later. "You fed information to the investigators," I said, my voice hollow with realization. "You made it look like I was using the Henderson project to fund some kind of personal vendetta. The board feels that a temporary suspension of your leadership role would be best for everyone involved. David can handle the day-to-day operations while this investigation plays out. Once everything is resolved, we can discuss your return to active management." The betrayal was complete and devastating. The woman I had trusted with my professional future had orchestrated my downfall using my own confidences against me. Patricia had played the long game, positioning herself to take control of the company I had built while destroying my reputation in the process. As I sat in my hotel room that evening, staring at the suspension letter that had been delivered by courier, I realized that Madison was not my only enemy. The business world I had conquered was just as willing to destroy me as my own family had been, and the alliance I had counted on for support had crumbled at the first sign of weakness. The girl who had been rejected by her family was now facing professional ruin, and the wedding I had planned to disrupt was suddenly the least of my problems. My temporary defeat lasted exactly 18 hours. What Patricia and the board had not counted on was the meticulous documentation habits I had developed during my military service and refined throughout my business career. Every email, every phone call, every meeting had been carefully recorded and archived, creating an unshakable foundation of evidence that would not only clear my name, but expose the conspiracy against me. The breakthrough came when I contacted my former Army unit's legal officer, Major Sarah Rodriguez, who had transitioned into corporate law after her military service. Sarah had been part of my chosen family for years, and her loyalty was absolute and unwavering. When I explained the situation, her response was immediate and decisive. "Scarlett, you are being played by professionals, but they made one critical mistake. They underestimated both your preparation and your support network. Give me everything you have on this Henderson project, and I mean everything. We are going to burn their little conspiracy to the ground." Working through the night, Sarah and I constructed a comprehensive defense that went far beyond simply clearing my name. The evidence revealed a pattern of financial manipulation and professional sabotage that implicated not only Patricia, but several other board members who had been systematically undermining my authority while positioning themselves to benefit from my downfall. The smoking gun came in the form of recorded phone conversations between Patricia and the lead investigator, discussions that revealed the entire audit had been orchestrated specifically to damage my reputation during the crucial Blackwood negotiations. Patricia had been feeding selective information to create a false narrative, knowing that even unfounded allegations would be enough to destroy my credibility during such a high-stakes business deal. But Sarah's investigation uncovered something even more damaging. Patricia had been embezzling funds from our corporate accounts using a sophisticated system of false invoices and phantom consultants to siphon money into her personal accounts. The Henderson Project irregularities were actually evidence of her theft, not my professional misconduct. She had tried to frame me for her own crimes, gambling that my emotional investment in the family situation would make me an easy target. Armed with this evidence, Sarah prepared a legal counterattack that would not only restore my reputation, but would result in criminal charges against Patricia and her co-conspirators. The documentation was so comprehensive and damning that the investigators immediately shifted their focus from me to the real criminals who had been manipulating the system. The vindication was swift and absolute. Within 24 hours, Patricia had been arrested on charges of embezzlement and fraud, and the board members who had supported her conspiracy found themselves facing their own legal troubles. The company that had suspended me was now begging for my return, desperate to distance themselves from the scandal and restore their credibility with clients. But my personal victory was overshadowed by an unexpected revelation about Madison's wedding situation. While reviewing Patricia's seized communications, Sarah discovered emails between Patricia and Eleanor Blackwood that revealed a shocking conspiracy I had never suspected. Eleanor had been investigating Madison's background as part of her standard due diligence for potential family members, and she had uncovered the same financial irregularities that I had been accused of. However, instead of the irregularities being connected to my business, they were tied to Madison's spending habits and some questionable financial decisions she had made using Richard's credit cards and family accounts. The emails revealed that Madison had been systematically overspending on wedding preparations, using her access to Richard's family resources to fund a lifestyle that far exceeded even their generous allowances. She had created fake invoices and phantom expenses, essentially embezzling from her own future family to pay for luxury items and experiences that she felt entitled to have. Eleanor's investigation had uncovered evidence that Madison had spent over $200,000 beyond her approved budget money that she had attempted to hide through creative accounting and false documentation. The Blackwood family accountants had been quietly investigating these discrepancies for weeks, gathering evidence of what they considered to be theft from someone they had welcomed into their family. The most damaging revelation was that Madison had been planning to blame the financial irregularities on me if they were ever discovered. She had prepared a false narrative that would present me as the troubled sister who had manipulated family connections to gain access to Blackwood resources, using my business relationship as cover for personal financial crimes. Sarah's expression was grim as she shared this information with me. "Scarlett, your sister was not just trying to exclude you from her wedding. She was setting you up to take the fall for her own criminal behavior. If Patricia's conspiracy had succeeded in destroying your reputation, Madison would have used that destruction as proof that you were capable of the financial crimes she had actually committed." The scope of the betrayal was breathtaking. Not only had my own family rejected and underestimated me, but Madison had been actively planning to destroy my life to cover up her own criminal behavior. The sister who had deemed me an embarrassment had been willing to send me to prison to protect her own reputation and future. But now, I had the evidence to expose everything, and I had an unexpected ally in Eleanor Blackwood herself. When Sarah contacted Eleanor's attorney to share our findings, we learned that the Blackwood family had been conducting their own investigation and had reached similar conclusions about Madison's financial misconduct. Eleanor's response was swift and decisive. "Miss Manning, I owe you an apology. We have been investigating financial irregularities within our family accounts, and I had suspected that your business relationship might be connected to these problems. However, your evidence clearly demonstrates that you are not only innocent of any wrongdoing, but that you may be the key to resolving our family's current difficulties." The alliance that formed between Eleanor and me was based on mutual respect and shared outrage at Madison's betrayal of trust. Eleanor had built her family's reputation on integrity and honor, and Madison's criminal behavior represented everything she despised about people who tried to use relationships for personal gain. "Your sister has violated the most fundamental principles of trust and family loyalty," Eleanor said during our private meeting at her attorney's office. "She has stolen from people who welcomed her with open hearts, and she was prepared to destroy an innocent person to cover up her crimes. This wedding cannot and will not proceed as planned." The evidence was overwhelming, the alliance was unbreakable, and the moment of truth was finally at hand. The confrontation took place in the Blackwood family's formal dining room, the same elegant space where I had first revealed my identity to Madison. But this time, the audience included both sets of parents, Richard Eleanor, and the family attorney who would be documenting everything for potential criminal proceedings. Madison entered the room with her usual confidence, still believing that her carefully constructed lies would protect her from consequences. Eleanor's voice was ice cold as she began the proceedings. "Madison, we have gathered here to discuss serious financial irregularities that have been discovered in our family accounts, irregularities that appear to be directly connected to your wedding preparations and personal expenses." Madison's facade began to crack immediately. "I do not understand what you are talking about, Eleanor. Richard and I have been very careful about staying within our budget. If there have been accounting errors, I am sure we can resolve them quickly." The evidence was presented systematically and methodically. Bank statements, credit card records, fake invoices, and forged authorizations painted a picture of systematic theft and financial manipulation that was impossible to deny. Madison's face grew paler with each revelation, her carefully constructed world crumbling in real time. My parents sat in stunned silence as the scope of Madison's criminal behavior became clear. The daughter they had invested everything in, the child they had deemed worthy of their dreams and resources, had proven herself to be a thief and a liar willing to destroy her own sister to avoid consequences. "The most disturbing aspect of this situation," Eleanor continued, "is the evidence suggesting that Madison was prepared to blame these crimes on her sister Scarlett, using her business relationship with our family as a cover story for her own criminal activities." Richard's shock was complete and devastating. The woman he had planned to marry had not only stolen from his family, but had been willing to send an innocent person to prison to protect herself. His privileged upbringing had not prepared him for this level of betrayal and manipulation from someone he had trusted completely. Madison's desperate attempts at explanation and justification fell on deaf ears. Her tears, her pleas for understanding, her promises to make restitution. None of it could undo the systematic betrayal she had orchestrated against both families. The wedding was canceled immediately, with Eleanor making it clear that any attempt by Madison to contact Richard or any member of the Blackwood family would result in immediate legal action. My parents finally found their voices, but their words were directed at me rather than Madison. Mom's face was a mask of confusion and hurt as she struggled to process the reality of what had been revealed. "Scarlett, I do not understand how this happened. How did you become so successful without us knowing? Why did you not tell us about your achievements?" The question was so tone-deaf, so completely missing the point, that I almost laughed. After years of systematic neglect and favoritism, after being told I was not worth investing in or believing in, they were asking why I had not shared my success with them. "You told me I was not college material," I said quietly. "You used my inheritance to fund Madison's lifestyle. You dismissed my dreams and made it clear that I was not worth your time or attention. Why would I share my achievements with people who had already decided I was a failure? Dad's response was predictably defensive. We did what we thought was best for both of you girls. Madison needed more support because she was going to represent the family in important social circles. We never meant to make you feel unloved or unimportant. But you did, I replied. You made me feel worthless and unwanted, and when I succeeded despite your lack of support, Madison tried to destroy me to cover up her own crimes. This is not about misunderstandings or different parenting styles. This is about fundamental failures of love and loyalty that have damaged our family permanently. The consequences for Madison were swift and comprehensive. Criminal charges were filed for embezzlement fraud and attempted frame-up. The evidence was so overwhelming that her attorney recommended immediate plea negotiations to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. Her reputation in social circles was destroyed overnight, with news of her criminal behavior spreading quickly through the networks she had worked so hard to cultivate. Richard's family pursued both criminal and civil remedies, ensuring that Madison would face not only legal consequences, but also financial ruin. The restitution requirements would leave her essentially bankrupt, forced to rebuild her entire life from the ground up with the added burden of a criminal record and destroyed reputation. My parents faced their own reckoning. The investment they had made in Madison's future had not only failed spectacularly, but had also cost them their relationship with the daughter who had actually succeeded. Their attempts at reconciliation felt hollow and self-serving, focused more on managing their own guilt and embarrassment than on genuinely understanding the damage they had caused. Eleanor Blackwood became an unexpected mentor and friend, someone who understood the importance of integrity and merit over social connections and inherited privilege. Our business relationship evolved into a genuine partnership with the Blackwood family medical empire, becoming my firm's largest and most profitable client. The success that had started as revenge transformed into something much more meaningful and sustainable. The most profound transformation was in my understanding of family and belonging. My chosen family, Sarah, David, my military buddies, and now Eleanor and several other business associates, had proven themselves to be more loyal and supportive than the people who shared my DNA. Blood relationships, I learned, are not automatically sacred or permanent. They must be earned and maintained through love, respect, and mutual support. 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation that actually mattered. Sarah was marrying her longtime girlfriend, and she had asked me to be her maid of honor. The ceremony was small and intimate, filled with people who had chosen to love and support each other rather than people who felt obligated by genetics or social expectations. As I stood beside Sarah during her vows, I realized that revenge had been the catalyst for my transformation, but it was not the foundation of my new life. The girl who had been rejected and dismissed had become a woman who understood her own worth and surrounded herself with people who recognized and celebrated that worth. My success story was not about proving my family wrong or making them pay for their mistakes. It was about building a life filled with meaningful relationships, professional fulfillment, and personal integrity. The revenge had been satisfying, but the growth and healing that followed were what truly mattered. Have you ever had to cut toxic family members out of your life to protect your own success and happiness? Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us unconditionally are actually the ones holding us back from becoming who we are meant to be. My family's betrayal taught me that loyalty must be earned through actions not demanded through blood relationships. Drop a comment below sharing your own experiences with family drama and justice. Did karma eventually catch up with the people who wronged you? If this story resonated with your own family struggles, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life revenge stories that prove success truly is the best revenge. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that their worth is not determined by family approval. And remember that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. Thank you for joining me on this journey of family betrayal, justice, and ultimate triumph. Until next time, remember that your chosen family is often more precious than your given family, and never let anyone convince you that you are not worthy of love, success, and respect.